Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about the potential for two snowstorms in the next several weeks, if you will, or in the next week, two snowstorms. And they're pretty interesting. I'm just going to say right off the bat, the confidence in these storms is pretty awfully low. It's just the models are agreeing to a certain extent, then at the same time they're not. So we'll just have to see, I guess, what assumptions we could draw from those things that are given and presented to us. Otherwise, consider subscribing to this channel. Consider liking this video. If you are a new returning viewer, you could like this video. It always helps out. If you are new, check out this channel. Check out my other videos, and then consider subscribing. It really helps out a lot. So let's get into this video. Notice winter storm gauge is moving out. We're out of the country. You can see right there. Basically, it dropped quite a bit of snow across North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, even portions of Illinois got up to 3 inches. Notice it moves off into off the main coast, which they got quite a bit of snow as well, up to 8 inches. Some locations. This is where we start seeing another system of ours. Notice that it really ramps up pretty drastically. Lots of precipitation from the south, a southern stream of moisture. Around late Thursday, early Friday, you see quite a bit of precipitation with this. Notice that if we look at the 999 millibar right there, it starts increasing. It's not awfully too strong, but notice a little bit of snow on the back side, Chicago, Wisconsin, Illinois, northern or southern Michigan as well. You can see that could actually produce a little bit of snow. Now, to what extent will the snow fall? That's tough to say. The European actually puts out quite a bit of snow for this storm, and it has it more strongly developed than what the European does, and it would just be a stronger, much bigger snow swath out of this system. So if we were to look at this, you could see a little bit of snow, a lot of rain from this, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of rain. But notice cold air comes after this. So let's look at the precipitation / moisture, total snowfall. Notice the amounts aren't awfully impressive. I mean, where the snow will be impressive is the northwest. You could see just ridiculous amounts of snow. Lots and lots of snow. The northwest is just going to be absolutely hammered with snow. Like Idaho, Montana, Washington, portions of Oregon, seeing lots and lots of snow in the mountains, though these locations seeing a little bit as well. You can see up to 5 inches in those purple locations. We'll see about that. I mean, we may or may not really see that snow. It really awfully depends on what we're gonna how things are gonna play out and which model is right. You can see the GFS isn't too favorable for some heavy snow. The 12 o'clock model run didn't favor too much either. The 6 o'clock model run favored a little bit, but not too much awfully, either. If you were to look at the European model, around this time frame, notice it does put out a pretty nice storm. Right there, it would be, and right there, you could see some millibars getting packed, some snow on the backside for sure. And then this is a second snowstorm. It really cranks out a beast across early next week, Tuesday and Monday. Across the country. This one could be impactful, and notice that portions of the northeast and east would be impacted by this. Now, in terms of the temperatures, kind of just want to get this out of the way. 8 to 14 days. You could see 8 to 14 day outlook for January 8th to 14th. Kind of, I guess coincidence. You could see they're putting above average for a good portion of the eastern and below for the western. Now, am I buying this? No, not really. I'm not really seeing that. They really heavily base their forecast off the European, and let me tell you, the European hasn't been as right as the GFS this year so far. And many people love the European, and let me tell you, the GFS has done an equally, if not better, job than the European this far this year. And notice that again, we have that storm, we have a little bit of cool shot of air, and it seems like the warm, awfully warm conditions that the Climate Prediction Center is predicting just aren't really setting up. If you were to look at the 500 millibar height anomaly, you can see they put in a little bit of warmth and heat across the U.S. This is mainly probably to do with some sort of storm system. Really, this doesn't look overly impressive. As noticed, there could be some cold air behind this, and if you were to look at the GFS, I mean, it's really a complete different layout. It has that warmth to a certain extent across the east, but that really just doesn't last too long. As you can see, some of that colder air pushes in, and how long that will be lasted, we don't know. In terms of the temperature anomalies, they look don't really look too impressively warm either. You can see some warmth, but the cold is just lurking up here. And you can see when that comes down, the European and GFS are both holding back on these two cold air masses. But once it does, I mean, it could just unleash itself in a fury. So we'll see. Right now, the European and GFS are kind of in a disagreement. Both showing signs of warmth, but again, I want to tell you guys, just because it shows signs of warmth doesn't mean that there won't be any snow. That's the thing. January, it's cold, and even if it's above average, 10 to 15 degrees, doesn't mean that there won't be any snow. You could be in the 40s one day when the system tracks too. You could be in the 20s, and you could see heavy snow. That's the other part of the forecast. So I'll show you the European model next, and show you actually, let's show you the Canadian. So the Canadian, in terms of the MSLP and precip, let's go to rain/frozen. It shows two systems as well. The only model that doesn't show the two systems is the GFS. It shows the first one, but not the second one. So notice here's that first one, weaker, but still produces a little bit of snow and rain. The models may be underestimating this. As I was reading the forecast discussion for National Weather Service of Chicago, they were talking about how this system has a lot of potency and has a lot of unpredictability, which could be transferred into, possibly a bigger, larger storm than expected, and accumulating snow is definitely on the horizon for portions of the Midwest. You can see there's also a clipper that the Canadian cranks out right there. They're followed by that second storm, which it does pretty good job with it as well. Meaning that it intensifies it pretty greatly, to a great extent, magnitude across the Northeast. That would produce a lot of snow, and some cold air followed behind that. Notice, if we were to look at the European model, it's a similar narrative. Hello, fuck. And this is now the European model I want to show you. Notice that the amounts of snow just going and precip into the Northwest are just ridiculous. I want to point this out right now, that if you live in Portland and Seattle and lower elevations of Washington, you may actually be getting in on some of that snow. The European model and really the GFS are both showing basically pretty drastic amounts of snow for the lower elevated areas, and just ridiculous amounts for the higher elevated, up to 90, 100, 110 inches of snow in the next 10 to 15 days, which is just ridiculous. But it definitely is possible, as the pattern will just be loaded with storms for the Northwest. And notice that if we were to look at this, we could be looking at, okay, again, the European right there cranks out a pretty nice system right there. Two different lows, one across in eastern U.S. and one right here could be cranking out some decent snowfall amounts. European does indicate some decent snowfall amounts, especially across the Northeast and the Midwest. Then we have that second, if you will, the beast right over here. This one could also be in for a pretty nice surprise for the U.S. You could see this one's a little bit further to the south, but you definitely have to track it, as it intensifies itself pretty quickly and tracks across the U.S., the Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and into the Northeast, and possibly another system in the long range. So, very, very... very interesting, I guess, scenarios, if you will, going on. Just because it's above average doesn't mean the storminess stops at all, and it doesn't even look like if the temperatures will be too awfully above average. They will be running slightly above average, it seems, for at least the beginning of January. But I kind of want to emphasize the fact that, if you recall, last January, it was very, very cold towards the end. At the beginning, I actually was watching my videos yesterday from my previous, last year around this time frame, as this year was basically a mirror image of what happened last year. We were basically looking at very cold and snowy conditions in late January, but as of recording videos at around the New Year's Eve, New Year's time frame last year, there was basically again, a warm temperature regime going on for the U.S., and the cold air didn't come until later on. And I'm telling you, that cold air locked up in Canada is just waiting to spill down into the U.S., and it's going to in a big way, and I'm predicting that. So I think that some of the northern U.S. is gonna get a taste of that even in early January. Notice that first system, it's rather impressive, up to 10 inches possibly across Ohio, definitely above half a foot. Chicago maybe a little bit missed on this, maybe not. The European model doesn't have a lot of agreement on this with the ensembles of the track, but the strength of the storm is, the models are agreeing with. Again, I want to point out, look at the ridiculous amounts of snow across British Columbia right there. You could see 100, easily 70, 60 plus for those areas. And then if we were to look at the second system that comes through, look at that. That one really cranks out another snow swath across the United States right here, which would be very, very impressive, up to 24 inches across Ohio, Indiana, which would be very significant, and across Erie, northern Pennsylvania, and upstate New York, and Maine. So that's interesting, and we could see even a third system really starting to get its acts together up there across the southern central Midwest. We'll see. Things look very, very active. Again, yesterday's video said lots of snowstorms possible. Still stand firmly with that. It seems many storms will be occurring, but as of now, we're focusing on his two main storms. Track is yet to be, determined, the exact track. That first one seems weaker, the second one seems stronger, and in terms of temperatures, we'll just have to wait and see how things really roll out. If you were to look at the anomalies, I want to show you let's look at the GEFS anomalies. This is kind of like a broader area, broader view of what the temperatures are going to be look like. Notice that we're looking at some rather chillier temperatures right there. You could see then we get in place of warm, then some phases of chill. This is Tuesday, January 7th. We get a little bit of warm air. This may stand around for a while, but the cold air it's just waiting to come in right there. So the GEFS ensembles are kind of doing what the Climate Prediction Center is showing. But I mean, at this point, it's tough to say what will exactly happen. But look at that. I mean, that is just, that is ready to come down into the U.S. And I think the second half of January should be very, very chilly. And that, I'm not going to lie, remember when I made a video about January being very cold and snowy possibly, I was thinking it might come a little bit earlier. Now it may appear as if it may come a little bit later, the second half of January. I may have to make a separate video about that just to kind of resign some of the confusion with that. But again, two snowstorms underway. Both of them look pretty impactful, either if it's rain or snow. The first one more of a storm, second one more of a snowstorm. But they definitely both have their snowy sides, so it's fair to call them snowstorms. Now, just because it's not a snowstorm in your area doesn't mean it shouldn't be called a snowstorm, really. Some people just really are self-centered. But that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Consider liking the video, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya.